Hey guys, it's Hollywood Studios here, and you guys already read the title, so let's backtrack a little bit and take a look at Wildcat before it was announced to be closed. Wildcat opened as the first coaster ever built by the company Great Coasters International, also known as GCI, in 1996. The ride operated for a very long life and originally was a pretty beloved coaster. It would rank consistently in the top 15 for Golden Ticket Awards Best Wooden Coasters, but slowly over time it would deteriorate in the public opinion as it got rougher and better coasters were being built, which made Wildcat seem a bit obsolete. I personally first rode Wildcat in 2012 when I was just 6 years old, so it was one of my first big roller coasters, and when I first rode it, I believe it was at night. I was probably towards the back of the train, and I specifically remember the lights on the side of the track being really cool. Other than that, I don't really remember too much about the ride. I do remember liking it though, thinking it wasn't that rough, and that overall it was an enjoyable experience. 5 years later, I got back to the park in 2017, rerode Wildcat, and yeah, it had gotten pretty rough. The same could be said about 2020, where I got to the point where I chose not to ride it a second time just because I couldn't really take it. It was a pretty rough ride. So I kind of saw this coming, that Hersheypark would announce Wildcat to close. We've seen the markers on Wildcat supports now, and it was pretty much all but confirmed that it was going to be getting some kind of a makeover. Now, people kept arguing whether that would be a GCI Titan Track makeover or an RMC conversion. I personally originally was siding with Titan Track, as I thought that GCI really wouldn't want to let their first coaster go. I thought it'd be a great opportunity for the company to test out this new type of track on their first coaster, that way they can keep it going and just see what they could do with it. However, looking at the comment section of Hersheypark's post on Wildcat's removal across all platforms, RMC commented, "We have some ideas." Now, if that's not a dead giveaway that Wildcat will be getting RMC'd, I really don't know what is. So now that we know at this point that it's all but confirmed that Wildcat will be getting RMC'd, likely for the 2023 season, let's take a closer look at what this coaster may wind up being like, including the name of the ride, the layout, the height, etc. When it happens, Wildcat will be the third coaster built by GCI originally to be getting the RMC treatment. Roar at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom became Joker in 2016, and Gwazi became Iron Gwazi at Busch Gardens Tampa in 2022. Both of these coasters were GCI roller coasters. One was a much bigger ride than the other, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Wildcat, as I've said, was the first GCI coaster, so it really isn't anything that special. It's not the tallest, not the fastest, not the longest, and its layout is pretty standard. It just has a bunch of turns, couple little airtime hills here and there, but nothing too crazy. So how exactly is RMC going to turn this coaster into a world-class, insane roller coaster? How big will they go? How crazy will they go? Well, that's what I'm here to decide today. I think it's very possible that Wildcat could be getting a very big height when it gets RMC'd. Joker at Discovery Kingdom only increased a few feet in height from when it was Roar. However, Gwazi is now a hyper coaster, so big difference there. But also the fact that Gwazi was a dueling coaster, which means that RMC had a lot more room to work with. So while I could see Wildcat going to be a hyper coaster, I just think that's a little unrealistic considering the amount of land they have to work with, since Wildcat really is not the biggest coaster out there. I'd say that it's pretty safe to assume that they're going to go with their truss lift hill. It seems like almost every RMC hybrid coaster lately has been going with that design. You can see it on Iron Gwazi, on Zadra, on Airy Force One. It seems like that is the way RMC is looking to go. Looks like they're trying to build their coasters a bit bigger than they used to. Their design has obviously evolved a lot ever since Joker was built in 2016. So I think it's safe to assume that Wildcat could sit somewhere above 150 feet. I know that may sound a little crazy, but when you look at Wildcat, it has a pretty long lift hill in the sense that it's not a very steep lift hill, and there's a bit of straight track before the lift hill, so they definitely have some room to squeeze in a bigger lift hill there. As for the drop, that's where I'm a little conflicted. I don't know if they're going to do the Joker style drop where it drops into a turn, or if they're going to do something more like Gwazi where it goes up into a big element to turn itself around. Like I said, they really do not have much room to work with here since Wildcat is not the biggest coaster out there. Depending on how big Hersheypark plans to go with this RMC makeover of Wildcat, they really do not have much space around the ride. It's surrounded by parking lots, other rides, and pathways. So they really cannot expand the plot of this ride anymore unless they decide to eat into the parking lot, which even then I think that's unlikely. I think they're going to try to use as much of Wildcat's layout as they possibly can, and if they have to go a little bit further out and build some new stuff, maybe they will, but not too much. They don't want this to turn into some massive investment. RMCs are not really supposed to be the huge, overly expensive investment the way B&M coasters are. They're meant to be relatively cheap and affordable, that way you can get a good coaster for a low price. But I do think that if Hersheypark wants to really make a big impact with this coaster, they're definitely going to have to make it big, like I said, at least 150 feet tall. But the problem with making it so big is that you don't want it to end too soon, as the layout for Wildcat really is not the longest thing. They really don't have that much space to work with in this plot, which has me worried that either the ride will be too short, or that they're going to struggle to figure out what to do with such a tall coaster and they'll wind up shortening the height. I do think though they could kind of go in the style of Wicked Cyclone where they kind of wrap it around itself a few times. Wildcat does have a pretty twisting layout and they can definitely manipulate the coaster's layout to follow that layout in a different order than the original Wildcat did, similarly to how Iron Gwazi has a very different layout than the original Gwazi coasters did. I think that's definitely probably the best route to go down for Hersheypark. But then again, it's very tough to decide what they're going to wind up doing. What I do know is that we're definitely be getting an announcement showing off the layout very soon. But along with the announcement, we're of course going to get the name of the coaster. So what will they go with for the name of RMC Wildcat? I've seen a whole bunch of different ideas across the internet about what people think might happen with Wildcat's name. I've seen Steel Wildcat, Iron Cat, among many other things. But I don't think any of those is what's going to actually happen. Hersheypark recently has been going very heavily into candy themes for their new rides. The Triple Tower opened in 2017 and is themed to 3 different kinds of Hershey chocolate, being Reese's, Kisses, and Hershey bars. They also have Reese's Cup Fusion, which is a dark ride that replaced their old Reese's Extreme Cup Challenge, and recently they also got Candemonium in 2020, and the entire area of Chocolate Town, which is obviously themed to everything Hershey. And this year they rethemed Sidewinder to Jolly Rancher Remix, along with getting a flat ride in front of it called Jolly Rancher Mixed. So personally, I think they're probably going to shoot for a candy theme for RMC Wildcat. It just makes sense with the direction Hersheypark has been going in lately. Honestly, I'm very surprised they didn't go in this direction earlier by theming more of their rides to candy. They have access to so much iconic candy brands, and it was very surprising to me that they didn't tap into this until recently. So personally, I could see a theme going along the lines of Twizzlers. I've seen the name Twisted Twizzlers passed around quite a bit, and I think they could definitely do something really cool with that theme. I have it in my head already with bright red rails and maybe even the wood painted in a dark blue, similarly to how it is in the logo for Twizzlers. That's just my idea, but I think that would be really, really cool. Of course, if they do want to go in the non-candy direction, I'm sure they can figure out a good name too. But personally, I predict that RMC Wildcat will be somewhere around 150 feet tall, maybe taller, with a truss lift hill, and will be themed to a candy brand, more than likely Twizzlers. If you guys have any differing opinions on what RMC Wildcat will wind up being, or if you still believe that RMC Wildcat will not happen and it will be something else happening to Wildcat, let me know in the comment section down below. Of course, like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye, guys.